This video is about the employees at Autoplan agencies, the people who sell you your insurance. They're licensed. Don't get them confused with the cash grab that the government is doing by licensing car salesmen and mechanics. And well, they've always done mechanics, but now they're doing body men and all kinds of other things. This insurance agents licensing is not a cash grab. It's a very serious thing. They're selling you insurance that can prevent financial destruction in your life. So it is very important that they know what they're doing, and they don't. That's what this is about. I'm only dealing with one specific subject here. I know there's others which I could even tell you about, but I want to know what your issues have been with the agents. This one here started at a small agency in Pitt Meadows about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I was renewing my insurance on my vehicle, and for the first time I was asked the question, does anyone in your household have less than 10 years driving experience? Now I assumed, I didn't ask, but I assumed that if they did, I would have to pay higher insurance. At the time we didn't have someone. About a year later, I didn't feel comfortable going back to that agency. So a year later, I went to another bigger agency, and there happened to be 4 employees selling insurance there that day. So the one that did my policy, she asked me the same question again. And I said, what does that have to do with my insurance? She said, well, if anyone in your house has less than 10 years driving experience, you have to pay a higher rate. And I said, well, what if I have a licensed basement suite? What if someone in my suite has less than 10 years experience? And the girl said, I mean, just as an example, you know, not that that's the only issue that could come up. And the girl said, well, I don't know about that. So she asked another one of the girls there, and the other girl said, oh, I'm not sure. And the third one said, well, does your basement suite have its own entrance? I said, it's a licensed suite. Of course it has its own entrance. And then a fourth one chirped in, and these ladies weren't even at the counter. They were sitting at their desk listening to everything. And the fourth one pipes up and says, well, if they live in the basement, I think you'd be okay. You could just say no. And I couldn't believe it. So shortly after that, I went to a third agency, and I got a lady in her 50s. We got along really well. We talked about many things, and she said that all she had ever worked at was insurance. She'd been doing it since she was 18 years old. So I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. So then she asked me, she said, will anyone with less than 10 years driving experience be driving your vehicle? And I said, are you sure you're asking that question correctly? And she says, yes, I'm positive I am. And I said, well, why is it that all these other agencies I've been dealing at, are asking me if anyone in my house has less than 10 years driving experience? That makes no sense whatsoever. I said, what you're asking me makes sense. You know, that the coverage is, or the usage determines the premium. And that makes sense. But who lives in my house? What does that have to do with anything? So she said, well, quite frankly, I'm not surprised. She said the training is poor and the employees do poorly at it. So, just beware. When you're buying your insurance, the person who's selling it to you may even know less about it than you do. So do some research. You can ask ICBC, ICBC themselves, not their salespeople. And good luck climbing the ladder there. You got to start at the bottom of the food chain and go all the way to the top just to get something that might be right. Anything below that, who knows? They probably won't even answer it. They don't want the liability. And the other issue I want to talk about is specifically one agency, Sharp's agency. About 6 months ago, I bought a pickup from a fellow who had surgery, and he hadn't been able to drive it for quite some time. His shoulder, required surgery, and it was a standard transmission. So I asked him, what about the air care on it? And he said, well, I can't even remember. It's been so long since I drove the car and I couldn't find the document. So I know it was on the internet, but I didn't care. The truck was cheap. So I bought it, brought it home. A couple days later, I wanted to take it through air care and get it insured. So if it needed air care, I didn't know. So I went down to Sharp's agency. Once again, it was convenient. I do business right beside their office, so it was convenient. I stopped in. I said, I just need... there was one girl in the office and I was the only customer. There was just the two of us there. So, you know, whatever happened was her word against mine, except for the documents. And that's the one that'll hang her. Anyway, so I said to her, I just need a one-day permit, because I'm going to take it through air care and then come back and buy insurance. And I said, I only live a couple blocks away. Air care's another couple blocks. Back here's another couple blocks. I said, I'll be back here within an hour and get the insurance. So she looks in the computer. I gave her the registration. She looked in the computer and, okay. So she makes up the permit. I pay her $28, I think it was. And I go home, get the truck, put the sticker on it, and I take it through air care. I give the guy my document when I get there. He goes and looks at his computer and he looks back at me with this strange look on his face. Then he comes back to my truck and says, why are you here? He said, you've got at least 6 months left on this truck before you're required an air care. So for the next 6 months, you can buy 1 year's insurance and at any time. And he said, why did they even sell you this permit? They have the same computer screen I do, and I just looked at it and, you know, I know this. Why did they sell you this permit? He said, I'd go back there and get my money back if I were you. And I said, well, I sure will. So I went back there and I told the girl, I said, why didn't you tell me that, you know, the vehicle, the air care was still good on it? I said, you had the computer right in front of you. I assumed that you would check it. And you know, I said, I want my money back. And she goes like this, she's, well, I didn't know what you wanted the permit for. And I just felt sick. You know, I knew Danny Sharp, the fellow who started that agency. He was a nice guy. He passed away some years ago. I went to school with his kids. I went to parties at his house when he was the mayor. He was a good guy. And to think that this caliber of person was working in his office just made me sick. But what am I going to do? You know, I was going to take them to small claims court because that's $150 plus whatever they owe. And I thought, no, there's a better way. I'm going to hurt their business. That's better than a little bit of money. And I just don't have the time for this. So what do I do to start with before I put it on this website, which I'm doing right now? Well, ICBC's Customer Relations Department. I know you're probably laughing the same as I am. So I sent them an email and I said, I just want you to know that I just had a problem with Sharp's agency. I know you won't do anything. So all I want to do is have it on record so that maybe in the future, if someone else makes a complaint, you're more likely to believe them. And they sent me back an email about 3 days later and said, we need all the details on this so an investigator can check it out and give you a report. And I sent him back an email and I said, why do I want to spend the time to do that? You won't do anything. It's my word against a woman, and I know how ICBC does in those situations. They always go with the woman. That's their policy. And, well, that's my opinion that it's their policy. Okay, this is not officially their policy. I can't say things like that. But after about half an hour, I thought about it, you know, and I thought maybe, just maybe, there's somebody there who's willing to do their job and investigate this and actually, you know, reprimand them somehow or at least get my money back and, you know, have it on record. So, you know, I'm still waiting.